Hey. Fuck that voice crack. But this video is a very special video because this is actually my very first collab video, and it is with none other than the legend TemmieJay.
Hi everyone, my name is TemmieJay, and I'm really grateful to be here as a guest. It's weird saying that on someone else's channel. I just hope you guys enjoy. I don't have much to say other than if you're interested in Xenoblade Chronicles, please check out my playthrough on my channel. I'm having a lot of fun playing through the game, so if you haven't experienced the game and want to see the story, now's a good time. I'm still in the early parts of it, so please head over there and check it out. I really appreciate the Paragon of Torna for having, I don't know, what else do you go by? I'll call you Jin. Thanks, Jin, for having me as a guest.
And with that, let's actually get into it. And before we start, naturally, there will be spoilers for Xenoblade Chronicles 1. And just to be safe, just say there's spoilers for the entire series. Xenoblade, hell, even just all of Xeno. But with that, let's actually, get into it. So, the first point on tier 4 is Metcon flesh armor equipment are plastic prosthetics. So as we know, in chapter, I don't remember what chapter, but around the middle of the game, we find out after Fiora died, we find out that she actually was revived and like put into like a mech body. Lenata actually revived her and was able to fit her with a Metcon styled body to keep her alive. And with different fashion gear, we can actually see more of her body because her body's completely covered in her default outfit. But if we try on some fashion gear, we can see basically her entire body, like all the skin. And here in this screenshot, you can see they're like lines that look like they're connecting pieces. So her skin isn't actually her real skin, and it looks like they're just, prosthetic legs that are held together by these different connecting pieces.
The pattern shared between the back of Alvis's jacket, Metcon Fiora's chest piece, and Mayonna's Monado. In order to explain the importance of this particular design choice shared amongst these characters, I need to explain what the Trinity Processor is. The Trinity Processor is a collective of artificial intelligences that hold the biocomputer cores of Ontos, Logos, and Numa. These AIs were raised in the virtual reality, which allowed them to develop their own personalities. In a flashback we see in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, towards the end of the game, we witness Klaus ending his original universe and killing all life on Earth. Sometime during this event, one of the biocomputer cores, Ontos, triggers what the game calls a space-time transition event and disappeared into a different dimension. So with that in mind, it makes sense why Alvis has this design on his jacket. With his Definitive Edition redesign, Alvis was given a quartz crystal necklace that is the same as Mithras and Malos's, giving the implication that Alvis is actually Ontos. Because Xenoblade Chronicles 2 confirms Malos as Logos and Hyra and Mithra as Numa, this is the dimension where Ontos ended up as and resides as Alvis. Hence why he has the design on this jacket representing his origins as Ontos. Metcon Fiora's chest piece is Lady Mayonna's Monado. It acts like Fiora's battery until she uses it like a weapon to combat Zanza. Fiora's chest piece and her sword Monado possesses the Trinity Processor on it. This has more to do with Galea or Lady Mayneth than anything else. Galea was a scientist who worked alongside Klaus on the Radamathus, the space station. However, when she was opposed to Klaus's idea of how to use the conduit, Galea's attempt to intervene was fruitless. Galea went on to become Lady Mayneth, and one half of Klaus became Zanza. The Trinity Processor present in Fiora and Mayneth's design may just refer to her involvement in how the universes came into existence.
Now, this one, Metcon Armor, has connectors that we can't see in game. I'm not quite sure what that means, but from what I've been researching or looking at, I'm pretty sure it's talking about Fiora's Metcon Armor and like the bunch of different little pieces of armor she could wear, considering, you know, her body is basically a mech. You can like detach certain parts of her body, or at least her armor, and attach different parts of her armor, and they all connect with each other to look like one full suit of armor. And just simply those little, pieces like her legs, the armor of her legs, her arms, her torso, and all that, they all have like little connectors that connect them together to make them look like one full suit. But obviously we don't have that amount of detail in the base game. I could be completely wrong, but this is what I think it means. Okay, this one I think is just like a little joke point on the Iceberg. Ryan gets access to his DPS build after he realizes he can fight alongside Shulk instead of just defending him. So I think it's just like a little joke about Ryan actually fighting now instead of just defending Shulk. Like, in-universe explanation would be, you know, at the beginning of the game, Ryan, he was just there to protect Shulk and just basically just be a shield for him. But after like Shulk unlocked the power of Monado 2 and figured that Shulk could fight for himself and he doesn't need much protecting anymore, he's actually like going all out and giving it all with his power and actually fighting instead of just protecting Shulk. So he unlocked his inner DPS build. In the opening cutscene, Mechonis is mostly defending itself from Bionis' attack. So we know that Zanza is in control of the Bionis and Mayneth is in control of the Mechonis. And we know Zanza wants all the power to himself. He wants the entire universe to himself. He thinks everything is there for him and him alone, and he deserves to be the only god there. So naturally he'll try to attack Mechonis and kill Mayneth. And Mayneth, she doesn't want to fight Zanza. She thinks that the world is big enough for both of them to share, and they should be able to share it together and appreciate the life, take care of the life that they created. Mayneth sees the Machina as her children, while Zanza sees all the life on Bionis as just fuel and food for him to continue to live. So, and I mean, Zanza actually ends up killing Mayneth later on in the game. But Zanza was just trying to get rid of Mayneth so he could rule over basically the universe at the beginning of the game, and Mayneth was just trying to defend herself.
Momkar's death parallels Fiora's death. At the end of Sword Valley, we fight Momkar as Metalface, and when the player defeats him, the cutscene shows his demise, and many details that are present in Momkar's death parallels the way Fiora dies in very interesting ways. For starters, when Fiora gets killed, the Monado isn't effective against face Metcon since they're part Homs. When fighting Momkar, he exclaims that the Monado is too much power for him to handle. Momkar isn't like most Metcon, and he somehow gets Shulk's sympathy through his own curiosity of why Homs are being turned into face Metcon. This differs from the first encounter when he kills Fiora, because Shulk is consumed by a blind rage for all Metcon. Moments before Fiora dies, Shulk gets a vision but is unable to warn Fiora of it before it's too late due to being immobilized from paralysis. And again, moments before Momkar dies, Shulk gets a vision of him dying but is unable to do anything about it. Even the method by which they are killed is the same. Fiora gets impaled by Metalface, and Momkar gets impaled from the pillar that falls through him. A great detail to point out as well, the spear that falls on Momkar actually gets hit one time in the beginning of the cutscene when a piece of Metalface flies off and strikes it. This loosens it up for the second time he launches an energy blast that ends him. The Telethia in Magna Forest were transformed Hyantia guards. In one of the very first cutscenes we see of Melia, we find her fighting a big Telethia with her own personal royal guards. After Melia's guards urges her to flee, the Telethia lets out a wave of ether that forces her guards to dematerialize and fade away, practically killing them. This exchange goes unexplained until later when Lorthea poses the question to Callian, what happens when you cross high concentrations of ether with Hyantia? Sansa created all life on the Bionis. He designed the Hyantia to share the same genetic material with the Telethia, and when put under the right conditions, can transform into them. This elegantly explains how the Telethia, back in Magna Forest, were able to pulse out a large amount of ether to the guards and absorb them into its own being. Thanks to Melia's lineage, she is half Homs and half Hyantia. Callian explains to Melia during their last conversation together that their father sought out to dilute the bloodline, since it's the Hyantia's fate to be returned to the Bionis as Telethia. To reiterate, it's thanks to Melia's Hom's blood that let her survive the Telethia in the first place and not join her guardsmen in their demise.
Alright, this one is a little bit confusing. It's about how skip traveling between the Bionis and the Fallen Arm works. My headcanon for this is that since Shulk has the Monado, the Monado can bend. Okay, in order to explain this, you need to understand that the world of Xenoblade 1, everything is made up of ether. Everything that is everything is ether. So, and the Monado can control that ether and bend that ether to its will. The Monado can basically allow Shulk to do basically anything. But what I think is that Shulk uses the power of the Monado to materialize the party's bodies into just straight ether, and then transport them over to the Fallen Arm and then rematerialize themselves. I mean, I don't know, it sounds really dumb, but I don't see how else this could work as an in-universe explanation to this. Obviously, just in real life game perspective of it, just fast traveling, but in universe, I mean, how does that actually work? I think it's just Shulk using the Monado, dematerializing their bodies, floating or transporting themselves over to the Fallen Arm and just rematerializing. It's a pretty decent concept, but I'm sure some of y'all will have even better ones that make more sense than whatever I'm trying to explain.
This one's about Shulk. In my head, there are two versions of me. This line is referring to the beginning of the game, where Shulk swears revenge on the Metcon after the attack on Colony 9. Shulk notes that he feels there are two versions of him in his head. One of them is saying to listen to Dunban's advice and let go of what happened and be grateful of the gift of life that Fiora gave him. The other is saying to make them pay and to destroy every single one of them. We come to understand that throughout Shulk's entire life, Zanza was resting dormant in Shulk's body until he could reign as God once more. We can recontextualize how Shulk gained his motivation to kill all Metcon, starting out by virtue of his relationship with Zanza. What if it was Zanza that was the other voice in his head that planted the idea of destroying all Metcon? Who's to say that it was inside Shulk's natural disposition to let go and move on from the tragedies of war, but instead, given the circumstances of the situation, Zanza's motivation bled into his mind like a blight. Shulk guided his way to making his plan easier. Just another example of this game's cutscenes having new meaning on rewatch. Last topic, I guess. Colonies 1 through 10 were destroyed by Metcon. For those wondering why there are no other colonies mentioned throughout the narrative of the game, that's because by the time we start the story with Shulk, they have all been destroyed. Colony 6 was being attacked at the time of the party meeting Charla. It was through Colony 6 reconstruction that it remained standing, but other than that, Colonies 6 and 9 are the only remaining colonies other than the original 10. It's important to note that Momkar is from an unspecified colony. It's revealed to us in a heart-to-heart with Dunban and Melia called Eternal Scars, where Dunban mentions that he is from a colony that got destroyed a long time ago. As to which colony he's specifically from, who knows. Nearly all of the Homs colonies inhabit the lower half of the Bionis. It's uncommon for Homs to travel near the upper half of the Bionis, as Alvis mentions to Shulk after meeting him in Machna Forest by the waterfalls. That's because the region near Machna Forest and Alchemoth is referred to as Telethia territory. Although the game insists that this is the case, it's somewhat known that the Bionis shoulder was originally supposed to be a playable area until it was repurposed in Future Connected. This area may have housed a colony or two during its original conception, perhaps even having one colony on each of the Titan shoulder blades. So, from what we know about Homs and where they choose to reside, there were 2 colonies on the shoulders, half of the remaining colonies on the left leg, and the rest on the left arm. Once the events of the story begins, however, there are only 2 colonies remaining.
Yeah, that's tier 4 of the iceberg. I don't know how this turned out, at least for y'all. I'm really excited about this, my first collab, and it wouldn't even be possible without TemmieJay, so it's massive thank you to this legendary goat TemmieJay, and I should be the one thanking them or even accepting to be a part of this video. I really do like doing collab videos because, I don't know, it just strengthens the community and just helps build up the community and strengthen the bonds between people in the community. So I'm definitely looking forward to many more collabs with TemmieJay or someone else. And hell, maybe one day I could even get a collab with Anel. I mean, that's never gonna happen, but I can dream, right? But yeah, again, massive shoutouts to TemmieJay. Please go check out their channel. Absolutely incredible. Go peep their Xenoblade DE playthrough. But I mean, that's about it. I'm just very, very thankful and grateful for this opportunity. So thank you again to TemmieJay. But as always, thanks for watching. Have a damn good day. Stay safe. Be well. And play some goddamn Xenoblade.